Good afternoon, Assembly, Commerce, and Labor Committee. Welcome to our first committee passage deadline day. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Assemblywoman Carlton.
Here.
Assemblywoman Considine.
Present.
Assemblywoman Dickman.
Here.
Assemblywoman Duran.
Here.
Assemblyman Flores.
Present.
Assemblyman Frierson.
Here.
Assemblywoman Hardy.
Here.
Assemblywoman Kasama.
Here.
Assemblywoman Martinez.
Present.
Assemblywoman Marzola.
Here.
Assemblyman O'Neill.
There it is. Here.
Assemblywoman Tolles.
Here.
Chair Howdigi.
Here. Please note all members are present. Members, we are going to have a short meeting today, so I am going to skip our normal housekeeping announcement. I will only announce that today, when we are done with our agenda item, public comment will be limited to 30 minutes and 2 minutes a caller, because we do have committees that need to follow behind us. So with that, let's roll right into our work session, starting with Assembly Bill 180. Ms. Papaloff-Thomas, if you're ready, will you present Assembly Bill 180?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Margie Thomas for the record. Assembly Bill 180 was sponsored by Assemblywoman Hanson. It was heard on March 24th. It revises provisions governing policies of insurance which provide for the payment of expenses which are not covered by Medicare. There are 3 proposed amendments. The first 2 are by the Division of Insurance. The first would be to amend the bill to add a definition for policy to supplement Medicare as provided for in NAC 687B.204. The second is to amend subsection 1 of section 1 of the bill to add by reason of disability as defined by USC section 426B and allow insurers to develop premium rates specific to this class of insured. The third proposed amendment is by Heidi Sterner with the Nevada State Association of Health Underwriters, and that is to amend subsection 1 of section 1 to require each insurer offering a policy to supplement Medicare to offer the Medicare guarantee issue plans to provide coverage for persons who are less than 65 years of age and qualify for Medicare because of a disability. Thank you.
Members, any discussion on the bill and the amendments before you?
Yes, Madam Chair. I just had a couple clarifying questions and then one possible concern.
Okay. I believe I do see Ms. Stern on here who might be able to help answer questions, but I do not see Ms. Hanson. So I do see Ms. Heidi Stern available. When you're ready, Vice Chair.
That's fine. So I'm going back. I want to make sure that I remember things. There have been so many bills. So currently, insurers can sell this product. They just don't sell it right now. And the impetus behind the bill is to mandate that they sell this line of insurance. Am I correct?
Yes, Vice Chair, through the chair to the Vice Chair. Yes, you are correct.
Ms. Stern, and that was Heidi Sterner for the record.
Yeah, sorry, Heidi Sterner for the record.
And thank you very much, Madam Chair. And that's my problem. I've never been very supportive of mandates. It's a difficult position to have, but if the industry can figure out what they can sell. If they had penciled this out and actuarially figured out that they could not sell this because people would not be able to afford it, us mandating that they sell it isn't going to change anything because the cost is probably going to be too high. And then there's a concern about the essential health benefits that were in the Affordable Care Act after 2011 when those benefits were set. And I'm not sure if this would be considered a benefit or a product. It just gives me a little concern there. But if we're offering something like this and it ends up being interpreted as a benefit in the future, then there could be possible issues with the state being on the hook because it's like 45 CFR. Oh gosh, I can't remember the full quotation. Right, 45 CFR 155.170 additional required benefits. I believe this could be opening up other issues. So I am a no on this bill. I don't believe it's our responsibility when a product is being offered to make somebody have to offer it. So I just have concerns that the cost of this might be prohibitive in the long run. And there might be a better way to solve this problem in the future rather than a mandate. So thank you very much, Madam Chair.
And may I make a clarifying statement?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Ms. Turner, this isn't a bill test, a hearing, so we only take questions about the amendments in the bill before us from the members unless you are called upon to answer a question. I'm sorry.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Turner, I apologize. Okay, members, any other questions on the amendment before you? Before I go to my motion, I do want to let the committee know, I'm going to ask you all to unmute yourself right after I ask for discussion on the motion. We will be moving through this work session with a voice vote. So I will have the secretary I will ask for all those in favor to say aye. All those opposed, I will ask you to say nay. And then I will ask you to please keep your hand up so that I can call out your names so that the secretary can make note of who was in opposition. This will help us work through our work session in a more diligent manner. So with that, I would accept a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 180.
So moved.
I have a first by Assemblymember Tolles,
I'll second.
a second by Assemblymember O'Neill. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, members, I would ask that you unmute yourself. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Vice Chair, I believe you're muted, but
Nay.
okay. And I see one hand up in opposition. That is Vice Chair Carlton. Motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Hanson with Assemblymember Kasama as a backup. Next on the agenda is Assembly Bill 222. Ms. Paslop-Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 222 is sponsored by Assemblywoman Torres. It was heard on March 17th and revises provisions governing employment practices. Chairwoman Howdiggy proposes 4 amendments which are attached. The first is to amend subsection 1 of section 1 of the bill to provide protections to an employee who makes a report pursuant to NRS 618-435 or refuses to engage in or reports to his or her employer or an appropriate authority conduct that the employee reasonably and in good faith suspects may be illegal or unsafe. However, for the protections to apply to an employee who refuses to engage in such conduct, but the employee's suspicion that the conduct may be illegal or unsafe and the employee's refusal to engage in such conduct must be reasonable. Amend subsection 2 of section 1 of the bill to allow an employee who suffers an adverse employment action as a result of a violation of subsection 1 to, in a civil action brought against the employer, obtain past and future general compensatory damages and 2 punitive damages if appropriate under NRS 42.005, but NRS 42.007 does not apply to an action under this section. The third proposed amendment would be to amend subsection 3 of section 1 to require a court to award reasonable costs in an action brought under section 1 only to an employee who prevails in such an action. And the fourth proposed amendment is to delete subsection 3 and 4 of section 3. Thank you.
Members, any discussion on the amendments before you?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Speaker Frierson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to, I don't want to oversimplify it, but is the nature of this amendment having 222 refer to the case law and adopting into statute the case law? Is that the essence of the amendment?
Assemblymember Torres, did you want to answer that, or do you want?
So my understanding of the intent, I can talk about the intent of the amendment. So my understanding is that it's referring to the case law, but then additionally, it's allowing for the employee to still report to the employer. I don't know if legal maybe wants to chime in there if there's something that I'm missing from that language.
But yes, having worked on the amendment, Speaker Frierson, I wasn't sure if Assemblywoman Torres wanted to answer this question, but yes, the intent was just to codify the case law. Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I would accept an amendment passed to Assembly Bill 222.
So moved, Assemblyman Flores.
I have a motion by Assemblyman Flores to amend and do pass. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Assemblymember Marzola. Any discussion on the motion? Assemblymember Tolles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say briefly how much I appreciate the sponsor. She addressed some of my concerns, but not all of them, so I'll still be a no. But I do appreciate that she did work to make it better. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, members, I would ask that you unmute yourself. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Can the nays please raise their hands? Okay, I have a nay from Assemblymember Kasama, a nay from Assemblymember Dickman, a nay from Assemblymember Tolles, a nay from Assemblymember Hardy, and a nay from Assemblymember O'Neill. Motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Torres.
Thank you, Chair.
Next on the agenda is Assembly Bill 277. Ms. Pasloff-Thomas, would you present the bill?
Assembly Bill 277 is sponsored by Assemblywoman Duran and was heard on March 29th. It revises provisions governing insurance, and there are two proposed amendments from the Nevada Justice Association. The first is to amend Section 1 of the bill to change the term usual and customary charges to actual charges incurred. And the second amendment is to amend Section 2 of the bill to delete the requirements set forth in Section 2 of the bill and instead reorganize and revise the provisions of NRS 690B.024 relating to the exchange of a medical and insurance information by a claimant, the claimant's attorney, a party's attorney, and insurer involved in a claim for personal injury asserted under a motor vehicle insurance policy covering a passenger car or motorcycle. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pasloff-Thomas. Members, any questions on the amendment before you or the bill before you? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 277.
So moved, Assemblyman Flores.
I have a first by Assemblyman Flores, a second by Vice Chair Carlton. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, members, I would ask that you unmute yourselves. I believe I still have okay, perfect. All those in favor, please signify. Oh, Assemblymember O'Neill, I believe you're still muted. I'm not sure if you wanted to participate in the vote.
I apologize. I'm having.
No, it's okay. I just want to make sure.
With the mute button, it doesn't like
All-
it or something.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Okay.
If I could see a show of hands, those who were in opposition, I have Assemblymember Kasama, Assemblymember Dickman, Assemblymember Tolles, Assemblymember Hardy, and Assemblymember O'Neill in opposition. Motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Duran.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Pasloff-Thomas, if we could present Assembly Bill 278, please.
Assembly Bill 278 is sponsored by Assemblywoman Duran, heard on March 24th, and this provides for the collection of certain information from physicians. There are three proposed amendments by the sponsor, and the first is to amend Sections 1 and 2 of the bill to require an applicant for the renewable license or a biennial registration to practice allopathic or osteopathic medicine to provide the required data request to the Department of Health and Human Services rather than the boards. Also require those boards to make the data request available to applicants on an electronic application for renewal or through a link to the department included on the website of the board, and an applicant must respond to this request but is not subject to disciplinary action by the board, including refusal to renew a license or issue a biennial registration for refusal or failure to do so. The second proposed amendment is to amend Section 4 to revise the type of information The data request must solicit from the practice of the applicant. And the third proposed amendment is to require the department to prepare an annual report regarding physician practice and employment trends in Nevada and post the report on its internet website. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pasloff-Thomas. Members, any discussion on the amendment before you? I'm sorry, any questions? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to amend and do pass.
So moved, Madam Chair.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Carlton. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Assemblymember Marzola. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, members, I would ask that you unmute yourself.
Hey, it worked.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Show of hands, please, I can name you. Okay, we have Assemblymember Kasama, Assemblymember Dickman, Assemblymember Tolles, Assemblymember Hardy, Assemblymember O'Neill in opposition. Motion carries. I will also assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Duran. Ms. Pasloff-Thomas, if we can proceed to Assembly Bill 330.
Assembly Bill 330 is sponsored by Assemblyman Ellison. It was heard on March 22nd and it establishes provisions governing occupational training and licensing. There is one proposed amendment by the sponsor, and that is to amend subsection 4 of section 1 to require each regulatory body in coordination with the Nevada Department of Education and the Nevada System of Higher Education to adopt regulations to effectuate the provisions of section 1 rather than the State Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have a question.
Vice Chair Carlton?
And thank you. So I guess I'm a little confused by the amendment in where the regulatory function actually lies and whether we can change by statute who should be drafting regulations. That's pretty well laid out. So I just wanted to make sure that we're aiming these regulations at the right place. We usually don't tell someone how to do their regulations. We allow that to just fall through its natural course to do the regulations.
Assemblymember Ellison, I saw you with us. I think he just disappeared. He was on. Assemblymember Ellison was just on, and I think he just.
Madam Chair, do you want me to run down the hall real fast?
Madam Vice Chair, would you like us to wait to see if Assemblymember Ellison hops back on?
He's just 2 doors down. Madam Vice Chair, would you like me to go get him for you?
Oh, one second. Let me ask the Vice Chair, Ms. Tolles, if you would just stand at ease. Vice Chair Tolles, Vice Chair Carlton, do you want?
Hold on 1 second.
Vice Chair Carlton, would you like to wait for your?
Okay, put your mask on.
Yeah, I run off trying to help.
His computer wouldn't work. He's going to use my computer. Excuse me.
Hello, can you see me?
Vice Chair, would you please restate your question for Mr. Ellison?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Ellison, I'm trying to understand the reason behind the amendment. Typically, we allow just the bodies that are impacted to draft their own regulations. We don't designate certain people to draft regulations. So, the regulatory bodies know their job. They know what regulation they need to draft, and the system of higher education. I'm just trying to understand what the amendment does. You did, and how you want this to proceed. I just can't figure out where it's going.
Well, we were on a conference call with everybody, and this was the regulations that they wanted to go by. We met with the Department of Education and the system on higher education, and that's how that amendment come up was what they requested. And I've got Omar here. I can't hear him. Come here, Omar. We're trying to figure.
No, Mr. Ellison, we can't have people that aren't committee members participate in this conversation. That wouldn't be appropriate, but I appreciate you trying to get an answer for me. So I thank you for that. Madam Chair, I'm going to go ahead and support this for right now, but I'm always cognizant of giving responsibility to someone to draft a regulation if it may not actually fall in their purview. So it's a good bill. I like what Mr. Ellison's trying to do. I think you just might have hit a little glitch here, and I'm sure it's something that we can address and fix. So thank you for allowing the question.
And thank you, Ms. Colton. And I'll get all the information that I can get, to make sure that it's right too. And then I apologize for being late. I couldn't get it to come up on the computer, and that's why I had to run down the hallway and capture a computer.
Thank you, Mr. Ellison, Assemblymember Ellison. We saw you and then you were gone. You were with us and then you were not. Okay.
Grab a mask.
Committee members, any other questions before we lose Mr. Ellison? Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion to amend and do pass.
So moved, Madam Chair.
I have a first by Vice Chair Carlton, a second by Assemblymember Dickman. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes,
Okay,
Madam Chair.
Assemblymember Considine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say that I really do like the intent of this bill, but I still have issues with the regulation, and also the discussion continuously revolves around NSHE, and there are a lot of post-secondary private institutions, and I don't know who is supposed to wrangle all of them. So right now, I will be a no on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember Considine. Any other discussion? Okay, members, I would ask that you unmute yourself, please. Assemblymember Marzola and Speaker Frierson, I believe you're still muted. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, I have a nay from Assemblymember Considine. Motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Ellison. Next item on our agenda is Assembly Bill 366. Ms. Pasloff-Thomas, when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 366 is sponsored by Assemblywoman Tolles. It was heard on March 26th. It revises provisions governing mental health records, and there are no proposed amendments.
Members, any discussion on the bill before you? Any questions on the bill before you? Okay, seeing none, I would accept a motion to do pass.
So moved, Madam Chair.
I have a first by Vice Chair Carlton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Assemblymember Dickman. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, members, I would ask that you unmute yourselves, please. Assemblymember Martinez, I believe you're still muted. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition, motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Tolles. Next on our agenda is Assembly Bill 382. Ms. Pasloff-Thomas, would you present Assembly Bill 382, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 382 is sponsored by Assemblyman Watts. It was heard on April 5th, and it revises provisions relating to student education loans. There are several amendments, and the first 5 were discussed during the meeting by the sponsor. The second group, 6 through 12, were submitted afterwards as supplemental amendments, and based on the exhibit, the sponsor said that the following 6 are technical changes. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Ms. Pasloff-Thomas. Members, any questions on the amendments before you? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 382.
So
Amended.
moved, Madam Chair.
Have a first by Vice Chair Carlton. Do I have a second?
Second, Assemblywoman Martinez.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Martinez. I have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, members, I would ask that you please unmute yourself. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those in opposition?
Nay.
Okay, I have in opposition, I believe from Assemblymember Dickman. Any others? Okay, some opposition by Assemblymember Dickman. Motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Watts with Assemblymember Martinez as backup. Next on our agenda is Assembly Bill 387. Ms. Pasloff-Thomas, when you are ready, please.
Assembly Bill 387 is sponsored by Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. It was heard on April 5th, and it revises provisions relating to midwives. This is another one that where many of the proposed amendments were discussed during the hearing. There were a few additional amendments that were provided after the hearing, and those are the later amendments being, for instance, I do believe amendment number 6 amends section 25 to require that all midwives, regardless of whether or not licensed by the board, to provide a client with a community birth disclosure containing certain information, and require the board to prescribe requirements for such disclosure, which must be developed in collaboration with all types of midwives serving birthing people in the community. The disclosure must be signed and dated by the client and midwife and maintained in the midwife's records for 5 years. Requires licensed certified professional midwives to also obtain the informed written consent specified in section 25 of the bill, but eliminate the requirement that such consent requires the disclosure of the amount for which a licensed certified midwife is insured. There is also amendment number 15, which was not necessarily discussed. This would be to amend section 107 of the bill to authorize the division to, on a case-by-case basis, allow a person who holds a midwifery bridge certificate issued by the North American Registry of Midwives or its successor organization, and who has completed the portfolio evaluation process prescribed by that organization to satisfy the education requirements for licensure past January 1st, 2025, if the division determines it necessary to fill shortages in the midwifery workforce in rural and underserved populations. And one other one that was not necessarily discussed was to number 14, to amend section 105 of the bill to change the name of the Transfer Guidelines Working Group to the Collaboration and Transfer Guidelines Work Group. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Pasloff-Thomas. Members, any questions on the amendment before you? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 387.
So moved, Madam Chair.
I have a first by Vice Chair Carlton.
I'll second.
Good.
I'll second.
I have a second by Assemblymember Marzola. Any discussion on the motion, members? Assemblymember Tolles.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I just wanted to thank the sponsor for all of her work on this and all the stakeholders over the last couple of years and taking extra time to answer my questions and for some of the additional clarifications on that training process and the ability for the board to still accept some of our midwives who have received the PEB education process. I just wanted to go on the record to say I appreciated all the time that the sponsor spent on this and personally with me as well. So I will be supporting it.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Members, any other discussion on the motion? Assemblymember O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to be voting no on this. I really appreciate the work that's been put into it, the movement on some of the amendments. I still think there needs to be some better recognition of other training facilities or programs. So I'll be voting no for now and see where it gets, if we can move a little farther along. Thank you, Chair.
Members, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I would ask that you please unmute yourself. Assemblymember Flores, I believe you're still muted, and the only reason I remind is I want to make sure everyone's vote is counted. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, nay.
Nay.
Show of hands, please. I have Assemblymember Hardy, Assemblymember Dickman, Assemblymember O'Neill in opposition. I will assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Monroe Moreno, and I would gladly take the backup on this one, members. Okay, next on our agenda is the work session for Assembly Bill 391. Ms. Paslop-Thomas, when you are ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 391 is sponsored by Assemblywoman Anderson. It was heard on March 29th and revises provisions relating to dispensing opticians. There are 7 proposed amendments. The first is to amend Section 4 to provide that the Board of Dispensing Opticians and its members are immune from civil liability for any act that is performed in good faith and does not constitute gross negligence in execution of any duty of the Board. Staff and employees of the Board are removed from these provisions. The second proposed amendment is to amend Section 6 to allow the Board to grant a waiver of certain educational and experience requirements for the issuance of a license as a dispensing optician if the applicant submits to the Board proof that he or she is a graduate of a foreign school and has education and experience equivalent or greater than the requirements to be licensed in the state, holds a corresponding valid and unrestricted license in the District of Columbia or any state or territory of the U.S. whose requirements are equivalent to or greater than the requirements to be licensed in this state, or has at least 5 years of work experience in ophthalmic dispensing in any state or territory of the U.S. that does not have licensing requirements equivalent or greater than the requirements to be licensed in this state. The third proposed amendment amends Section 9 to delete provisions requiring the Board to adopt regulations establishing reasonable fees and instead requires the Board to establish a schedule of fees and charges for certain items relating to licensing with certain specified maximum amounts. The fourth proposed amendment is to amend Section 13 to clarify that the term ophthalmic dispensing includes the preparation and delivery of electronic work orders by verifying prescription information entered into a computer or other online system, and to the physical final inspection of the quality of finished ophthalmic products delivered within the state. The fifth proposed amendment amends Section 18 to revise the duties of the Board with respect to the licensure and regulation of the licensees and the administration and enforcement of the provisions of Chapter 637 of NRS. The sixth proposed amendment is to amend Section 24 to authorize a member of the Board to issue a subpoena to compel the production of documents and any other article related to the practice of ophthalmic dispensing. And the seventh proposed amendment amends Section 26 of the bill to reduce from $10,000 to $1,000 the amount of an administrative fine that may be imposed upon a person who is not required to be licensed pursuant to Chapter 637 of NRS who commits certain violations or who employs a licensee who commits certain violations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paslop-Thomas. Members, any questions on the amendment before you? Assemblymember Kasama.
Thank you. Yeah, I like this bill. I know Assemblywoman Anderson has been working hard on this, and I just wanted to just double check and clarify that there are no new fees. You're just bringing all the fees together from different sections. It's the same. Is that correct?
Ms. Anderson, I believe you are here to answer questions.
Thank you, Chair. That's correct. From what I've been told from Nina Laxalt, as well as members of that board, all that they're doing is trying to put all of the fees in one section, as opposed to having it peppered throughout the current NRS as well as the current regulations. It's simply putting it all in one section.
Wonderful. Thanks for the answer. Just wanted to make sure we got that. Thanks so much.
Thank you for the question.
Members, any other questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to amend and do pass.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
I have a first by Vice Chair Carlton, and I had a second from
Kasama.
Assemblymember Kasama. Any discussion on the motion? Members, I would kindly ask that you unmute yourself.
Yeah, education, right?
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Anderson.
Thank you. Turned into a study. Useless.
Okay, next on the agenda is Assembly Bill 398. Ms. Paslov Thomas.
Assembly Bill 398 was sponsored by the Committee on Commerce and Labor. It was heard on April 7th and revises provisions relating to sales of residential property. There is one proposed amendment that was discussed during the hearing, and that is by Rocky Finsa to amend the provisions of subsection 1 of section 1 on line 9, which prohibits a seller's agent from completing a disclosure form, to replace the phrase may not with shall not. Thank you.
Members, any questions on the bill before you? Okay, seeing none, I would accept a motion to amend and do pass.
So moved, Madam Chair.
I have a first by Vice Chair Carlton,
Second.
second by Assemblymember Hardy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I would kindly ask that you unmute yourself. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. I will take that floor statement. Okay, next on our agenda is Assembly Bill 436. Ms. Paslov Thomas. Oh, actually, if we could, Ms. Paslov Thomas, would you like to go to AJR 10 first?
Thank you, Madam Chair. AJR 10 of the 80th session is sponsored by the committee, and it was heard on April 7th, and there are no proposed amendments.
Thank you, Ms. Paslov Thomas. Members, any question on AJR 10? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to amend and do pass.
I believe, Madam Chair, it would be a do pass.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Vice Chair Carlton. I would entertain a motion to do pass.
Do pass?
I saw the speaker jump out of his chair, so I wanted to make sure we were clear.
Okay, I have a first by Assemblymember Considine, and then Vice Chair, did you want a second?
Oh, yes, I'll be happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, and again, just so that we're clear for the record, that was a motion to do pass by Assemblymember Considine with a second by Vice Chair Carlton. Members, I would kindly ask that you unmute yourself. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
If those in opposition could please raise their hand. I have Assemblymember Kasama, Assemblymember Dickman, Assemblymember Hardy, Assemblymember O'Neill, and Assemblymember Tolles in opposition. Motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Vice Chair Carlton.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, members, if we could go back to Assembly Bill 436.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 436 was sponsored by the committee and heard on April 7th. It revises provisions relating to vision insurance. There are 5 proposed amendments. The first 2 were discussed during the hearing, and they were proposed by Michael Hillerby. The first is to revise the provision set forth in subsection 4 of section 1 to prohibit an insurer that does not provide reimbursement for specific vision care from claiming that the insurer covers vision care or that such vision care is available at a discount. The second is to revise the definition of vision care to delete subsection 6B1 of section 1 of the bill and include routine ophthalmological evaluation of the eye, including refraction, and exclude the initiation of a treatment of diagnostic program for medical care. The Culinary Health Fund and the Health Services Coalition proposed 2 amendments, which are attached. Those are to delete subsections 1A, B, C, and E of Section 1 of the bill, which prohibit an insurer from entering into certain contracts with a provider of vision care. And the 4th proposed amendment is to delete subsection 5 of Section 1 of the bill, which prohibits an insurer from placing a provider of vision care in tiers or similar designations in any advertisement or similar communication. And both Mr. Hillerby and the Culinary Health Fund and the Health Services Coalition proposed to delete sections 10, 11, and 12 of the bill, which limits the rates that a provider of vision care may charge to patients for vision care provided out of network. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions on the bill and amendment before you?
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair Carlton, please.
Thank you very much. And I just want to thank everybody for working all day yesterday and through the night and through all day today to come to some resolution. We know there's a problem out there, and it's a very complicated problem, and it reaches into a lot of different places. So I just want to thank all the parties for working so hard to come to some resolutions so we can keep this moving and make sure we get the best policy for all of our constituents in the state. We know that eyeglasses are one of the most expensive things that you buy that sometimes aren't covered as well as we want. And I just want to thank them for trying to address the issues.
Thank you, Vice Chair Carlton. Members? Okay, with that, I would accept a motion to amend and do pass.
So moved.
I have a first by Vice Chair Carlton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Assemblymember Kasama. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying, members, please unmute. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Marzola. And then members, we should have received a revised agenda, and there was a revised work session document posted probably about 2 hours ago. We have one more item on our work session, and that's Assembly Bill 178. So if you do not have that document before you, you can get it from the work session document that is posted on Nellis. It was posted again with the revised agenda about 2 hours ago. Ms. Pasloff-Thomas, would you walk us through Assembly Bill 178, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 178 is sponsored by Assemblywoman Hardy. It was heard on March 10th, and it revises provisions relating to prescription drugs, and there are no proposed amendments. Thank you.
Members, any questions on the bill before you? Okay. I would entertain a motion to do pass.
So moved, Dickman.
I have a first by Assemblymember Dickman. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Assemblymember Tolles. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, members, I would kindly ask that you unmute yourself. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed?
Nay.
Okay, I have Vice Chair Carlton in opposition. Motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Hardy.
Thank you.
Okay, members, that concludes our work session agenda for today. We are going to go to public comment. We will not adjourn. We will stand in recess in case we need to come back. I will not call you guys back unless we need to come back. If there is no need for us to meet, I will just adjourn the committee on my own. But broadcasting, can we check the telephone line for anyone wishing to give public comment?
Chair, the public line is open and working, but there are no callers at this time.
Okay, thank you. And before we recess, committee members, this has been a very long week for many of us. I would like to thank you all for the last couple of weeks for being here in the evenings and giving every bill your attention like you would the 1 o'clock and 1:30 bills. And I especially want to take this moment to thank our hardworking staff here. They've put in so many hours to make sure that we met our deadline, and not just the Commerce and Labor staff, but the staff that has made this virtual committee a possibility. The voice of our public comment announcer, Mrs. Cindy Mercado Rosa. Thank you so much, Ms. Rosa. Our broadcast that makes sure that we all get on here and are able to be heard and seen, Mr. Ryan Stark and Mr. Michael Lewis, and our hardworking staff of the Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor as well. Our legal, Mr. Sam Quast, our policy analyst, Ms. Marjorie Haslov-Thomas, our committee manager, Ms. Terry McBride, our committee secretaries, Mr. Louis Magriel, Julie Axelson, and Paris Smallwood, and my attache, Joe Casey. So from the committee, we want to say a big thank you. So thank you. Virtual round of applause. With that committee, we will stand in recess.